Lara jogged to her car to grab her cell phone, which she'd forgotten when she got inside the club. There was a weird man inside who had been making her nervous. At first, he just stood there, staring at her from the shadows. He stood out because he was so dark, as if light couldn't reflect off of or illuminate him. It would probably give a sensation of foreboding to have someone with that kind of a presence staring at you, especially when you're a 5'2" slender little wisp of a woman, aside from large breasts, which did tend to draw attention. But this wasn't attention she wanted, not from this guy. So this feeling of dread had to be normal. She was just overthinking things, and he was just weird. It's just that he put off an energy of pure, cold malice. It was impossible to even describe. Kind of like the energy of totally unfettered hatred, whatever that is, but without the emotion, if that were at all possible. Anywho, the reason Lara wanted her phone was because the friends she was meeting here after work were a no-show, and she thought she had to have gone to the wrong address. And she didn't really feel like having another drink and waiting it out because of the weirdo. So she got up and walked around the club, trying to lose herself amongst the people. Then she headed for the exit, glancing once behind her, but she didn't see the man anymore. Relieved to know he wasn't observing her leaving, she went out the door and started jogging the short distance down the street to where his car was parked. But what Lara didn't know was that the car her friends are in had just plunged 40 feet off a bridge into the icy Hudson River. She didn't know that the bridge had collapsed, taking with 32 cars and a ferry that was passing underneath it, carrying 77 people. She also didn't know that the man inside the Cthulhu Club wasn't a man at all, but a monster, and it never left an accident without choosing one person to spare, and in so doing had a witness, but a witness whose life would from that day forward be filled with nothing but calamity and sorrow. And tonight that witness was her. She didn't know it, but how could she? Slowing to a walk, Lara clicked the control in her hand and remotely opened her car door. As she did, a shadow fell in front of her, obscuring her view of her car. It was so fast that it almost looked like an eclipse had passed in front of her face, like blinking, but with her eyes still open. And then she was hit and knocked to the ground with such force it felt like a freight train had slammed into her. The man from the club was standing above her, looking down at her with such hatred. But it was more of a feeling than a look, because the man didn't have a face that she could see. It was so dark where his face should have been. All that she could see was what looked like a cape. Oh, what the... It was wings, held close to the body and now unfurling as the Mothman rose off the ground and came within a foot of her face, looking down at her from a horizontal position for just a second before it flew off into the night. In shock, Lara lay shuddering uncontrollably on the ground, for she had seen its face in that instant, and it was beyond the stuff of any nightmare she could have ever imagined. She lost control of her bladder in that moment as she heard its voice within her skull saying, "Now you bear my mark," in a voice that would give her night terrors for the rest of her life, screaming awake every night and holding her knees, just rocking back and forth with a blank stare for hours, knowing there was about to be another death, another accident, another horror that she knew she was somehow linked to on some deep level, a level beyond her understanding. In fact, Lara would eventually die during and as a result of one of those terrors, where she would once again come face to face with this thing. But for now, she lay quite alone on the ground a few feet away from her car, the flickering tongues of light from the flame-engulfed Cthulhu Club reflecting off its windows as it burnt to the ground, taking 111 souls to their graves. She barely noticed the nightclub disaster she had narrowly averted, for she was focusing her mind on a happy place, a place where nothing bad ever happened, and there were green fields full of flowers and puppies, and happy childhood memories of innocent things. A desperate attempt at blocking out the memory of the creature's face. And it was working, sort of. But She could still feel the impending ascent of something big and powerful coming for her from the depths of somewhere cold and dark, even through her self-induced paradise. But all she could remember of the moth creature now were its eyes, watching her, even in this moment, not red and fiery, full of light like the legends told, but instead cold, blank eyes, like the eyes of a great white shark.